certain things well. And this resistance is there, absolutely. There's no doubt. And for us to overcome it, we're trying to shift the paradigm by going to fundamentally a different way of looking at how we interact. So our society has dysfunctions, and we find many of those dysfunctions are based on these fundamental problems of our perception and our cosmology and how we exchange goods and services, primarily due to this market failure. You know, if you look at energy and how energy moves through our community and how it affects everything, if we don't put a proper price on it, it will have all sorts of domino effects. And you can attribute learning disabilities and crime. They've got strong correlation to lead in our environment to high crime areas. So there's all sorts of correlations here. So if we know that we take care of our environment with this fundamental change in the way we look at the world, that things start falling into place. We start taking care of each other. We start looking at, so that's the mechanism by which we try to get people to shift and why they should buy our services or support what we do. So that's a real big shift, and it's hard because most foundations and many board people and most people in society don't see the world that way. You know, it's very segmented, or, you know, this is my boundary.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's about numbers. For, you know, you see a grant or you see a foundation or organization say, well, okay, so how many jobs did you give people a year? They don't care about that feeling. Like, it's hard for me to quantify, well, this person earned their first paycheck, and they're earning a paycheck every other week, and it's giving them the feeling of belonging. You know, they're like, oh, great on them feelings.
Yeah.
But what's the numbers? What's the bottom line? And so that is the difficult point. And that's the difficult point. I see you from John Rex. So you can help in scoping our questions.
Is that we've got to change the way we value things, the multipliers, the variables that we use to measure things. And that is truly a phenomenal change in the way we look at our world. So things that provide all of these additional benefits that are hard, that are intangibles, or how the dollar moves through a community, they're hard to value. And I know that most foundations at this point are driving, I want actuals, I want to see results. And how do you spend half your time trying to actually prove the results exist? You know, it's hard to measure, but yet I think we know that there are so many benefits from that shift, and that shift has to occur.
For Be Downtown, it's been interesting. It's kind of been the opposite. When we started as a nonprofit, we were another nonprofit that was doing something good, and we were a new nonprofit, and there's so many new nonprofits every year. We made that shift to a for-profit. There was a shift in people's mindset of like, oh, this is like this wild card startup that we know nothing about. Wow, like they're making a profit in their first year, and this is something where the return on investment for companies is not generally that monetary return. This is really interesting to us. And there was, you know, our marketing budget last year, I think was like $200, but we were in, you know, New York Times, National Geographic, Country Music Television as one of North Carolina's most interesting startups. We won one of the top 5 most interesting startups in the Triangle. You know, we've been all over local media sources, and so we're not another app. You know, we're making a difference, and people care so much more about us. You know, we're one of the smallest startups in American Underground, out of like 250 companies, but we are one of the most publicized startups. And anytime anyone comes on a tour, they always try to grab us to be like, we have a bee company here, it's so cool, because it's just different. But we did, on the other shift of it, I mean, we have been hammered by some beekeepers by saying, oh, she's profiteering off of bee decline. She's trying to, you know, make money off of something that is a natural, you know, occurrence in the environment. Like, how dare she do something like this? But we charge, and it's not cheap for these beehives, and I do not apologize for that ever, because everyone assumes that beekeepers are hobbyists. Everyone assumes that farmers, you know, aren't intelligent people, and, you know, that they don't know, you know, oh, they probably didn't go to college, something like that. But the fact that we're charging, and we're charging a premium for this service, shows the community and shows the world that there is a value attached to what we do. If we gave it away for free, then that means our value and our service means nothing, and that our skill set is, there's nothing valuable about it. But when beekeeping is a skill, it's a trait. There are really good beekeepers and there are really bad beekeepers. And so, we're showing people that the excellence in our service is worth that. And there's more to what we do than just it being a hobby and like a, down home, old school, like in my backyard bees. It's like, it's a business, it's a program, it's something that people get attached to. And so we don't apologize for charging, and when beekeepers, a lot of them are very supportive. We have a couple that really just don't like what we're doing. But we're making money, but we're also, when we have a community event, we have around 400 people come to each of these community events. And that is, to me, not profiteering off bee decline. That is sharing an educational experience with the community as a whole. So it's been interesting as a for-profit, when we made that shift, we're now this really cool startup in the area and in the country. And then as the nonprofit, we're still able though to have that, flexibility to do the education that we want to do and spend the resources where we want to spend them for the part of what we think is so important about Bee Downtown.
All right, well, we are at the end of our time for today. Please join me in thanking our